I'm Lee McGrath. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota chapter of the Institute for Justice. Thank you for coming this morning. This morning we filed a lawsuit against the state of Minnesota. To describe it, let me turn it over to Caitlin McBride, and she will introduce our client and to tell you about the lawsuit. And our client, Jane Astramecki, will also discuss the lawsuit, and we'll be happy to answer your questions after this short introduction.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. My name is Caitlin McBride. That's KATELYNN MCBRIDE, and I'm an attorney with the Institute for Justice and the lead attorney on this case. We are here today because the Institute for Justice has just filed a lawsuit on behalf of Minnesota home bakers, challenging Minnesota's restrictions that only allow home bakers to sell their products from a farmer's market or community event, and only allow home bakers to sell up to $5,000 worth of products once they get there. That's just $96 per week. These restrictions mean that home bakers cannot sell their products online, over the phone, from a retail shop, or at a job site. And once a home baker hits $5,000 per year in sales, she has to shut down her business. The cap is on sales, not on profits. So the actual sales a home baker can make will be significantly less than $5,000. The reason that Minnesota allows the sale of home-baked goods at all is because home-baked goods are safe. If it is safe to sell a cookie from a farmer's market, it's safe to sell that same cookie online or from a retail shop. These restrictions make it impossible for home bakers to build a successful business from the home, and only serve the purpose of ensuring that home baking remains a hobby, not a thriving business. These restrictions are not just arbitrary, they're unconstitutional. Fortunately, the Minnesota Constitution protects the right to earn an honest living. This law violates that right by prohibiting home bakers from selling inherently safe products from the home. IJ's challenge to Minnesota's restriction on where home-baked foods can be sold and how much can be sold are part of IJ's new National Food Freedom Initiative. This nationwide campaign will bring economic liberty, private property rights, and free speech challenges to laws that interfere with the Americans' right to produce, procure, market, and consume the foods of their choice. As part of IJ's launching this initiative today, IJ is also launching 2 additional cases. The first is a case in Oregon, where Oregon has banned the advertisement of raw and unpasteurized milk, and the second is a challenge to Miami Shores, Florida's ban on front yard vegetable gardens. Now I'd like to introduce you to our lead client in this case, and home baker and owner of Jane Doe Bakery, Jane Astramecki, and that's Astramecki. Jane?
Good morning. I'm here basically because I want to make an honest living in doing what I love, which is baking. Unfortunately, the state of Minnesota has a law, the cottage law, that restricts me from making more than $5,000. Because of that law, I'm constantly turning down opportunities to make more money. I'm trying not to be a burden on society or my family, but to help. I think that the law needs to be changed so that we can continue enjoying all of the baked goods from everyone. Thanks.
We're happy to take any questions.
Can you talk a little bit more about this 5,000 restriction? Why is it there? What is it? Why is the law there in the first place?
The government will claim that these laws protect the public health and safety, but Minnesota's own law proves that that is false. Minnesota has deemed all the products that Jane makes to be safe by deeming them not potentially hazardous. And Minnesota allows the sale of these goods because they're safe. Minnesota just restricts the sale to farmers markets. But if a cookie is safe to sell from a farmer's market, it's safe to sell from online.
How many home bakers are there in an estimate in the state?
I think Jane might better answer that question.
There's not many. Most of them do bake.
Stand in front of the microphone. Yeah.
Most of them bake out of an incubator kitchen, or there's really not many. The other ones are true bakeries with a storefront. So as far as being home, I don't know of any.
How does the law hurt you personally?
Well, I have to turn down orders. I can't make more than $5,000. That's the absolute max. So therefore, it doesn't take into account my fees to do the farmers markets, my insurance, or my ingredients. Because of the law being $5,000, that breaks down to $96 a week. Who wants to work for $96 a week?
Why wouldn't you then just maybe go open a storefront and do your business that way?
I have many health issues. I have nerve damage in one of my legs, so I need the ability to be able to lay down when necessary. In a traditional bakery, it's go, 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 and you're on your feet the whole entire time. I did an externship while I was in culinary school in a bakery, and I realized sadly that I could not fulfill the duties of a baker. My dream was to have a bakery, but I don't know a bakery that has room for a bed. So, for that reason, I cannot have a bakery.
So you'd rather function maybe online and go at your own pace?
Sure.
Or use the technology that maybe wasn't around when the law was written?
Absolutely.
So how do you ensure if someone orders one of your bakery items and you have to ship it to California, how do you ensure that's still safe because it goes through many, many hands?
Well, I don't because I've never done that before. And I would imagine that most of the items have to be sent FedEx overnight.
Why don't you talk about your customers and selling to Minnesotans?
Well, just the fact that people want wedding cakes. My farmer's market is on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Nobody gets married on a Thursday. So to have a cake that they have to come to the farmer's market to pick up because I cannot deliver it to them, they have to pick it up at the farmer's market, I have to say no. And right there, that's where the bulk of the money is in a bakery, is in wedding cakes. So I cannot do any wedding cakes because no one wants them on a Thursday.
Where's your home bakery at?
Yeah, I have a separate kitchen in my basement. My home is in Farmington.
How long have you been doing it?
3 years.
3 years. Could you give us a ballpark estimate? I'm not asking you to be ultra specific. How much business have you turned away?
Quite a bit. We get asked constantly. During a regular farmer's market, I'll be asked 2 or 3 people from each market. Can you make this from my office? Can you make a wedding cake? Can you make my son a birthday cake? It's a constant.
It's thousands of dollars, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Say that.
It's over $1,000 that I turn away.
A year, a month, a week?
Probably a year. Our markets are only 14 weeks long. So in the 14-week time period, over 1,000.
And then how would you characterize the law that's on the books?
Unfair. I am Serve Safe certified. I follow all the rules. I have a separate kitchen. I do not have pets that go in my kitchen. It's downstairs. I do everything the way you're supposed to. So there should be no difference that I'm in a home kitchen compared to a bakery.
The prospect of 90 days in jail, should you be caught going over the cap?
Scary. I have 6 kids. They would miss me terribly.
Caitlin, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
It's sort of piggybacking off what Bua had to say. I mean, obviously these bakeries that have storefronts and brick and mortar will say we're inspected by the health department. It's not fair for her to be able to do this out of her home.
Well, the law itself allows home bakers to sell products from the home. And there's no reason to restrict where those products are sold or how many are sold. Minnesota has deemed them safe. And so if it's safe to sell from a farmer's market, it's safe to sell from the home. There should be no restriction on where they're sold from. In terms of fairness, protecting established bakeries from competition is not a legitimate government interest. And I'll also add that there are at least hundreds of home bakers in Minnesota.
Some of these storefront owners may say, hey, we go through a lot more regulation than somebody baking out of their home. What do you say to that? Because they're following so many more laws, they will say, than James.
Well, the state of Minnesota allows home-baked goods to be sold. The fact that Minnesota allows them to be sold proves that Minnesota has acknowledged that they are safe for sale from an uninspected home kitchen. And so from there, the question is there any legitimate government interest in regulating where these safe goods can be sold from and how much of those goods can be sold? And the answer to that is no.
They may argue it's all for public health concerns.
Minnesota has deemed these products safe. Minnesota has referred to them as not potentially hazardous. That's the classification the state of Minnesota has made. That's why Minnesota allows the sale of these goods at all. If these goods were dangerous, Minnesota would not allow them to be sold from a farmer's market or community event.
How many people are involved in this lawsuit with Jane?
We have a second client on board with Jane named Mara Heck. Mara is a 31-year-old with a day job and a passion for baking, and she likes selling her products to friends and family, but Minnesota won't let her.
The two total involved in this lawsuit.
Yes, and Jane's business, Jane Doe Bakery, is also a separate plaintiff.
One last one. Were the state to increase the cap to $50,000, a couple of other states, might you inform us on what the benefit may be to the state in terms of receipts?
Such
In terms of
tax receipts.
She's allowed to sell $45,000 more a year, and it stretches over hundreds of people. Would there be any benefit to the state?
She is the taxpayer. She files her taxes.
Right.
She pay an income tax.
Okay.
You get where
Yeah.
I'm going here.
Yeah.
She's making more money.
Mhm.
She's going to owe the state.
Okay, I see
more.
what you're saying. Okay. Raising the cap would only benefit the state of Minnesota and Minnesota consumers. Jane is a tax-paying American, and Minnesota would earn more revenue from her business, so they have every reason to want her to build a thriving business from the home. And so do Minnesota consumers who want delicious home-baked treats. Free the treats. Let Jane Astramecki sell her home-baked goods.